So, a Highlander back. Highlander's here. And so are you. So are we all. So, welcome. And to my little video. And I'm going to do a talkie video. And I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Mike. I'm a bit conscious about Mr. Mike, so I try to keep him off camera. But then I got a really closely cropped image, and I don't like that, so I've decided you're going to see Mr. Mike from now on. And Mr. Mike is nice. He hears everything I say. He's a good listener. But he has to be close to listen, because he doesn't hear very well. Like me. Anyway, I made a little list of things that I want to say, because there's so many things I want to say, and at one point, the pot just boils over, and I can no longer keep myself from recording what I want to say, and it's all over the place, and it's all gaming related as ever. So let's just do it. The first thing, let's do space news, right? That's fitting. Yesterday, NASA and SpaceX launched 2 astronauts from Florida in a rocket that was made in the United States, and it was all star-spangled banners and redneck yeehaw stuff, and which, it falls nicely into the current conservative flow of the world to make this very nationalistic. Underneath that all, I think it's pretty cool that the United States are finally back to launching humans into space, because even though it may seem like a huge waste of money, and maybe even it is, but I think it's important that we do everything we can to get off this planet. And the sooner we start, the more time we have to investigate and explore and find stuff out of how to actually do that, because it is hard. So I'm excited about that. I thought it was really cool to see how modern everything looks, with touch screens and the space suits that were just like pajamas basically, and the Dragon was so clean inside and roomy, and I liked it a lot. I didn't get to see the actual launch live because we were playing Arma at the time, and all of us playing forgot. Especially Giles wanted to see it, and as I wanted to see it, but we just missed it. If you want to see us miss more things, then visit Hardcastle Gaming on Twitch, because that's where the streaming happens, and it is fun. Jeremy is on, Grubgun, Kat's on, Dave is on, who none of you may know, but we're a tic-tac team, and we're really funny, according to our only guest, Malk. Well, not our only guest, but he's our most frequent guest, let's face it. Anyway, back to the NASA launch. Cool, everything great. The docking, but there's one thing that is amiss with the whole thing. And I commented on this in an earlier video where I noticed the exact same thing, and it has happened again. Stage 1, like the big rocket, is supposed to return to Earth. And Elon Musk and his buddies took special care of making a rocket that can land by itself, even on a drone ship. So an unmanned ship floating out in the ocean, and the rocket can spot it, can navigate to it, and can land on it by itself. I've seen it happen. I know it can be done. I've also seen it fail. I think that I've seen one video of where the thing just misses the platform, or just it lands but it keels over and falls into the ocean. I think it's very, very difficult, not the locating, not the landing, but the fact that the platform is unstable. A rocket coming down wants a flat surface, because the rocket is very long and it can't stand at an angle. And this platform is going... you can see it, because what they do, and what they did yesterday again, is that they put a live camera on the drone ship and they put a live camera on the rocket. So there's every opportunity for us to see that live, but we never see it. And the last time I saw this happen, I thought it was weird, and I commented on it, and I said, I doubt that this is actually what is going on. And yesterday the same thing happened. Right before the rocket is supposed to land, there is a loss of signal, and then in a matter of seconds, much shorter than it takes to actually land a rocket like that, the image returns and there's a rocket there. Ta-da! Oh, wow, look at it, right before your eyes. I think it's bullshit. I think that they don't want to risk filming the rocket dumping itself into the sea, because it will look like a failure, even though it is not. It has no bearing on the success of the mission, right? This is after the fact. The rocket's done its job. All it's not being able to do is to land. But Elon Musk does not want to show the failure. NASA does not want to show a failure. So they cut out the image. They wait to see how it goes. If they detect this is going wrong, then just cut to the previous footage. If they say, oh, this is going right, then we can see it live. I'm saying that yesterday's rocket landed on the ship, but it keeled over and dumped into the sea. One of the reasons why, if you look at the footage, and I'll put a link in the description, if you look at the footage, you'll feel it. They cut out, they cut back, and there's a rocket there. The time is much too short. So that's bullshit. Bullshit. They don't want to show what really happens. Which is fine. But then just don't show it. Just say, well, if it goes well, we'll show it. Maybe we'll show it. If it goes wrong, we won't show it. Just be transparent. But now I just feel it's a blemish. It's a blemish on the whole thing, because everything looks so nice. The Americans make a huge show of it, and they have all the camera angles, and they have all the guests. William Shatner is on, Bill Nye is on, and all the, they repeat everything a million times because that's what Americans like, and they fill the time, and you're watching a show that's 3.5 hours long. For 7 minutes of content, but it's nice to see, and they don't want to blemish it, but now they have by doing this. So I'll put a link in the description and make up your own mind. I could go and find the footage of the actual landing. We can measure the time it takes for the rocket to land, for all the smoke and fire to dissipate, and then take the actual landing, the live landing, and measure the time. I'm not going to do that, because you'll see it. It's fake. It's like buildings collapsing, and everyone can see it's controlled demolition, and nobody wants to admit it. Okay. Now that takes me to another one of these modern time things, and I don't want to condemn it straight away, because I don't understand all of the ins and outs. I certainly have no experience with it, but my gut says it's not for me. And the thing I want to talk about is LBRY. And if that title confuses you, then that might be a sign, because LBRY is what it's called. LBRY, LBRY. I think it's supposed to remind us of library and of liberty. That's one of the facts that I haven't looked at, but I have looked at the terms and conditions. I've looked at the facts, and I've at the frequently asked questions. I've kind of done a mild bit of research. The YouTubers can be categorized into two kinds. Like, there's the kind of people who appreciate what YouTube does, is to offer a free storage platform with some functionality. I can upload my videos and they'll be there for years. At the touch of a button, I can just get my videos back. It doesn't matter if it's losslessly rendered huge files, I can always get them back. Then there's the other category of people who see YouTube more as a means of making money, to supply some extra income, or maybe all of their income. Well, I have certain thoughts about that. I won't go into that too deeply, but that sort of divides the people who make use of YouTube. I am more of the category of the first category. I appreciate the fact that I can upload my videos. I appreciate the fact that it's a free platform, and I accept that YouTube can limit the views to my videos. They can limit the devices that it can be showed on. They can limit the regions of the world that my videos can be shown in. They can do copyright strikes and all of that. It's their party. It's their rules. Even though I am the product, right? I'm providing content for Google to sell ad time on. But that's so I accept that, because I see it as a hobby, and there's loads of people who see it as a hobby, and I like YouTube because it's not TV. I dislike commercials. I dislike ads. I don't want to sit through ads. I don't trust ads. That's the other category. Now, for the second category of people, I can imagine that someone would make LBRY. And what LBRY offers is a place where you can share, and I have to pick my words carefully, where you can share your content, and you can set a price per view, although it can be free, and you can just share it into the wide open, or you can claim a space where people can find. So that would be the equivalent of a YouTube channel, maybe. And you can, but that will cost you credits, LBCs, LBRY credits. Now, you can share content, but you don't upload content. Never, ever in any of the texts that I've read says LBRY that they have servers where you can upload your stuff. Even stronger, they say there are no centralized servers, because they use the blockchain concept, which we all know from Bitcoin. And in Bitcoin, you have a distributed ledger. Like, everyone has a copy of the ledger, and no single person can make a change in the ledger without all of them accepting the change. And then there's mechanisms to make sure that that the changes are authenticated and all that. And this is how LBRY works. So the first thing I've noticed, that this has an immediate attraction to people who monetize their videos, because they see the next platform where they can make money. And they're thinking, well, if I'm the first, maybe I'll be big. Like the first YouTubers are big. Some of them are big just because they started early. So all of the usual suspects have a LBRY account already. And I guess they're paying in LBRY coins, and they're getting their paid per view money as well. So how do I feel about that? Giles asked me last night, "Are you going to go on LBRY?" And I said, well, no, because because and I had to sort of let that work through my mind for a little bit, but the main attraction of LBRY is not the fact that I can store my videos there or I can store my content. It's the main attraction is making money. And that's the thing that I don't like money being involved in YouTube, because it makes things go strange. We were trying to get away from TV. It's the thing that we didn't want. So I don't know how this LBRY is going to pan out. I haven't heard too much about it. There have been other initiatives by companies who thought they could take YouTube on in this field, but nobody can, because Google is just too rich. They're doing it at a loss, and no company can survive that. So basically Google has a monopoly, and LBRY is trying to get a little bit of the market, of the view market. But they're not going to do it with ads, maybe, because I haven't seen anywhere that it's ad free. I've not seen anything where they say, we'll put ads on it. In fact, they've said, we'll leave your content alone. So you're the owner of the content, and we're not going to limit the views. So that's a thing that might be attractive to people. But I wonder. Have a look at this LBRY thing and tell me what you think. I'll put a link to their site and just read through some of the texts. Anyway, on to the fun stuff. First of all, as you know, I have 2 arcade cabinets, and one of them has a Crazy Kong PCB in it, and I've had a lot of trouble running that cabinet. From the start, it's been glitchy. I've had sound issues. I've had graphical issues. I know the monitor is ready for a recapping, which I might have someone do. But I had a little struggle with it, and I had a little fight with it, and I came to the point where I thought, I'm going to get rid of the cabinets. Forget it. I'm not ready to, to fix them, and so I opened it up, and I took the board out, and I had another look at the board, and I thought 2 things. I thought, damn it, this is the Crazy Kong PCB that I really appreciate, that I really don't want to lose. And I had a close look at it, and it's in perfect condition, and I couldn't figure out why it was giving me so much pain. So I cleaned the contacts, and it worked for a while, and then I turned it on the next day, and again it didn't work, and I cleaned more contacts. And in the end, I took out my voltmeter, and I noticed that I had only 4.3 volts on the board, where my if I measured the 5 volts off the power supply unit, I got 5 volts when there was no load. But when there was a load, and you have to know that it goes through a couple of connectors because it converts from non-JAMA to JAMA, and it drops the voltage. And even though people have said to me, well, it can't drop that much voltage, it's probably your PSU that's not up to the job, I figured out that it has a little knob that will allow me to set the 5-volt rail, which I did. I took out my measuring equipment, and I measured on the board, and I turned up the knob until I had 5 volts at the board. Now, without the board connected, it's like almost 6 volts. But on the board, it's 5 volts, and now it runs perfectly. So I've had to clean the contacts, but it was starved for power. That was the most prevalent error, and the most important cause for all the troubles. And also, one of the things that I never understood, that there is a coin counter, and I thought it was maybe like manually operated, or I didn't I didn't really get it. But now that everything has 5 volts again, it started to work. Every time I put in a credit, the little coin counter goes up 1. So I've got a happy little cabinet there again. So one of the things I did notice when I have to pull it out of its little hole that it's in, it's sort of tough to do. So I screwed some caster wheels under it, but they were too bulky, so the cabinet came up too high, and then I remounted them again, but 1 level lower, but it was still too high and it was unstable. So I took the wheels off again, and now it's back to its normal position. I'm not ready to let them go yet. I like them too much, and I'm playing Crazy Kong again. So that's happened. One of the things that I should show you. Hold on. I think in my last video that I talked, I showed you that I was working on Musha, but I only had the cart. But now I have the entire thing. I found this. Did I show this already? I can't remember now. But I've got the entire thing done now, and you can see it's fake. I don't care. I sort of designed some of this myself, but basically this is like a ready-made picture, and I had a printer actually print this so it's proper quality. But now I've got it's a product finished kind of thing. This has a programmable ROM in it, so that's the finished product. Programmable EEPROM in it. That came from Altered Beast. I printed the labels. I had the case. I think the case is also from Altered Beast. So I literally cannibalized a cartridge, which I didn't like anyway. So I'm happy with this. That's a project done. Ready. On another kind of note, while we're in Sega land, during that whole process, a number of you said that I should get an EverDrive. I now have an EverDrive. This is a lot easier. The nice thing is that it came with a little card. At least one of you watching is going to say, hey, I recognize that. It came with a little card which had loads of Mega Drive games and Master System games on it. So what I did, it also had some other stuff on it that I didn't want on it, so I removed it. One of the things was the little operating system that this needs. I threw that away. I shouldn't have done that, so I put it back, and it worked. But it has Master System games. I can play Master System games. I didn't know the EverDrive could do that, but it can. So one of the things I always wanted was a Master System converter, which I also have now. And but I have no Master System games. I had one Master System game that I sold, and now I have none. Now I can play them all, which is fine, but I wouldn't mind having like one cartridge, so that I can at least have a use for this thing. Because the reason I wanted this thing is that I didn't want a Master System. I didn't want another console. I have too much stuff as it is, so I really want to get rid of some of it. I have like 5 PS1s and a bunch of PS2s, and I never use them. I have 2 Wiis. What am I going to use all that for? Talking about the Wii, I had the Wii sitting over at my desk there, but I bought a new display. I bought a 28-inch 4K display for my PC. Now, that makes a difference. That makes such a difference. Luckily, I have a graphics card that can do 4K, and I can play games in 4K, and that is such a huge difference that if you have confidence that your current card can do 4K and you want to spend your money on something, think about getting if you don't have 4K yet, think about getting a 4K display, because that is such an amazing difference. Especially, I mean, I play a lot of Arma 3, which is basically a huge open world map, and I can see things in the distance which are rendered to a detail that is amazing. I've said a couple of times already, it feels like I'm actually there. If I look in the distance, I can see like a bunch of trees in the distance, and I can actually see the individual trees, which are like 1,200 meters away. That used to be like a blur. And now it's so precise, and it's so real. It makes almost the same kind of difference as upgrading your graphics card does. So if you're contemplating getting a new graphics card, maybe you don't really need one. Maybe you can spend less money and upgrade to 4K. I didn't have any 4K displays, so for me it's completely new. But it was such a good investment that I'm really happy that I did that. So I've had a little screen carousel, because my PC has 2 displays, and one of them has component input, which I used for the Wii. So I've moved the Wii away because the display is moved over here now, because I used to have, and some of you, it's featured in a number of my videos. I had a little couch, a little 1950s, 1960s retro style sky leather couch, but it was really nicely styled. I was in a stage play at one point, and that was a prop, and it was from one of the other players, and she said, well, you know, if you want it, you can buy it. So I bought it for $50. And it fit in here perfectly. But I just used it to put shit on. And I could never sit on it because it had shit on it. Some of the shit was a bunch of Commodore 64s that I had sitting around. And I sold them, almost all of them, because they all had partial boards and SIDs missing and PLAs missing. And so I got rid of them, and I got some money, and I bought my display with that. And now I have a desk here. And not only that, while cleaning up, I found a little Coolpix camera that I have. And this little stand I bought at the thrift store once. This is actually, it was my wife's camera. It sat here for ages doing nothing. And the nice thing is, it has a macro feature, and it has filming capabilities. So I can put this on my desk here and actually film stuff up close, which I intend to do now as well, to show you how that works. Because the next thing that I'm working on, I have a Sega Mega Drive with a couple of controllers. I also have the Mega Drive Mini. Now, a game like Musha, I don't know if it's me or, but I'm better at Musha if I can use a stick. So I have a stick on the real Mega Drive, but that has like a DIN connector, a sub D connector, 9-pin. And that won't fit on my Mega Drive Mini because that has USB input. So I'm building something that will convert one to the other. So I can plug in my Mega Drive controller, it will convert to USB, and I can plug that into my Mega Drive Mini. I could even put it in the PC. So let's have a little look at that. I don't know how this is going to work out. Maybe it's shit, maybe it's not. But let's see. Okay, so this is my little project, or at least the beginnings of it. This is an Arduino Pro Micro. And it's got a bunch of, let me get something to point with. It's got a bunch of inputs, which can be digital inputs, and that will basically be the the joystick inputs, and it will output through this. And there's a little processor on it that I can put a script on, which is basically as simple as mapping the inputs to the correct outputs. Now, figuring out what the Mega Drive Mini responds well to is, I guess, the most important thing in this whole thing. So I made a little design. You can see it. This is the front and the back of the sub-D connector. I soldered some wires to it, which I'll show in a minute. Also a stop button for during development if something goes wrong. I did connect a board to it, to my Mega Drive Mini, a board that I know works, which is the Dragon Rise one, and I figured out which button did what, so I can know what to emulate. And then I took a bit of software and read on a PC which values this thing outputs and which values the Mega Drive Mini responds to. So let me adjust the light here. So I know how to write my little program, which I did. Someone suggested to put a little stop button on it, so because this thing can brick up if I make an error in the software, and if I then press this little button, I can have the software at least interrupt its thing. So where I am at right now is that I've done this, which I think looks pretty cool. I bought this and that for like 11 euros. I had some old wire, I had some shrink wrap, and I soldered all these wires to the little connectors, and I color coded them. I did all the continuity checks. I put some heat shrink here so that I'm sure that they don't interconnect. And this is all going into a little housing that a friend of mine is going to print in 3D, and I'm going to build it into that. So that's where I am with this. So all I have to do now is to solder these wires to the correct inputs, and then connect this to a PC and test if the software does what it's supposed to do. And then I should be able to connect my Mega Drive controller here and my USB connector there, and it should all work. Well, I hope that experiment went well. I filmed a little bit on the new desk with a little camera. If that didn't make it into the footage, then I'm sorry. If it didn't work, I'll put in some pictures. But basically, I just explained what I'm doing with the little Mega Drive converter. Not something that I came up with myself. Of course, there are many other people who've done exactly this. I didn't write the software from scratch, although the code that I worked off of was for the Commodore 64 Mini, and that didn't work at all with the Sega Mega Drive because the Sega does some weird things with a select signal that is controlled from the host, and that says whether or not you're pressing the A or the B button or the C and the start button. It's a bit weird. It's completely different from how the Commodore works. The up, down, left, right, and one of the fire buttons are the same, which is why the Commodore controller and the Sega controller are somewhat interchangeable. But I think it's safe to connect a normal Sega Drive controller to a Commodore 64 because that select signal isn't going to do anything. I mean, the host initiates the making the signal high, unless you have like an active controller with some sort of chip in it that does something. It should be safe. Anyway, long story short, that's what I'm doing. I don't have anything else. I'm looking at my list there. I've said everything I wanted to say. I am curious. What do you think of the SpaceX Stage 1 landing? I think they're trying to hide a failure, which I think they should either not show it at all or be transparent about it. Don't lie about it, because that's, now I feel, like I'm being bullshitted. And what do you think of this LBRY thing? I'm not attracted to it. And I don't want to have to go somewhere and pay for stuff on LBRY that I can see for free on YouTube. There's going to be a point where people who make videos for Patreons don't share their video. Maybe they're already doing it and I don't know about it. I don't know. I get a sinking feeling in my stomach when at the end of a video that I really enjoyed, I get to hear that thank you to all my Patreons for keeping this alive. And I'm thinking, who the hell am I? Is it not okay that I watch? Some of them also say, well, thank you for subscribing or just viewing. But I don't feel appreciated. And I want to feel appreciated. If I've sat through an hour of bullshit, I get my enjoyment out of it, but I don't know. So, thank you simply for watching. All you do is have to watch. Thank you. You don't even have to like. You don't even have to comment. You don't even have to subscribe. Just thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. I'll see you next time.